My name's Kip Morrow. I had a brain tumor removed, and this is my story. So they gave me migraine medication, said try this, didn't do anything. We let them know. They gave me another migraine medication, tried that, it didn't do anything. I'd been having headaches, like severe headaches. And they woke me up every morning. I was getting up with headaches, and then I would have to go down to the living room. Oftentimes I was just on my knees at the couch with my head down, just waiting for the headache to kind of go away. Usually I was into the afternoon before that would happen. And so progressively they just got worse and worse, and eventually I had some cognitive issues that went with it.
Which you weren't aware of.
I wasn't so much aware of that, but lots of other people were. One Sunday I was at home preparing for the church service, but I wasn't aware of the time. Time hadn't registered with me. So Victoria, our daughter, came into the living room where I was, and she said, "Daddy, did you forget that today's Sunday?" And I said, "No." And a little while later, you came into the living room and you said, "Honey, did you forget that today's Sunday?" And I said, "No, I'm aware of that." But I wasn't aware of the time. Normally, the church service starts at 10:30, and we leave the house about 10 till. And yeah, I was still sitting in the living room at, I don't know what time it was, but...
Well, when I came down, it was 9:30.
9:30? Okay. So eventually 10:30 rolled around. I was still at the house, and I got a call from one of the men at church, asked if I was coming to church that day. And I said, "Well, I'm planning on it." "Yeah." I said, "Why?" He goes, "Well, it's 10:30 and we're ready to start and you're not here." And so I had actually not even been in the shower yet, I don't think. So I took the fastest shower of my life and got changed and dressed, and we jumped in the car and we headed over. So, in fact, I left the house without my sermon notes.
You did?
So I didn't have any sermon notes or anything. And I asked you to look up one passage for me, because I knew if I had that passage, I could preach from that one passage. So you did. By the time we got there, they had sung about 5 congregational songs trying to kill time.
All the stanzas.
Yeah. And I walked up to the platform, and when that song that they were singing, when they were done, I took the pulpit and, I don't know, I made up something stupid as to why we were late. But
You did.
Anyway. Didn't plan on preaching for over an hour from that passage, but I did.
Should I say that people walked out?
There was, yeah, with about 15 minutes to go, there were some different people that did.
Well,
they had places to be.
They had places to be.
And we were way late.
You were always on time.
Yeah, we were way late that day. And then Victoria came up after Sunday school and she said, "Wow, Daddy, you preach a long time when you don't have notes." And so that's when people realized something was going on with me, but I didn't realize. I went through that morning and preached that sermon and felt pretty dialed in.
Yeah. Royce thought you were pretty dialed in.
Yeah, other than me and Royce. So you didn't, and you wanted me to go to the hospital. But I wasn't interested in that.
No.
And so I think we made an appointment over at PCI or something.
We did.
And we kept that appointment, and they suggested we do blood work and suggested doing an MRI.
Which you turned both of them.
Yeah, I wasn't interested in that.
Yeah.
It just sounded like too much work. So they gave me migraine medication.
Well, that's because you thought you had a COVID headache.
Yeah.
That's why you turned all that down.
Yeah. So they gave me migraine medication, said try this, didn't do anything. We let them know. They gave me another migraine medication. Tried that, it didn't do anything. And then that took us into the next weekend. The MRI showed a problem. So it was Saturday, and we had a lot of folks at church that either had COVID or had been exposed to it.
Yes.
And so we decided to cancel the service.
Yeah.
So I was going to be home that Sunday because we had canceled that. So
we were actually trying to get you to the hospital, and we're trying to figure out a reason to cancel the service.
Okay,
so
that part I
can...
didn't know, so
yes.
yeah.
Well,
you were working behind my back.
Yes.
So we had canceled the service, so I got up that Sunday morning knowing that I didn't need to be over to church.
Correct.
So I'm just down in the living room, and Victoria came in. She put a video on, and we're watching a video together on TV. And I just had a terrible headache, and I was concerned that I might have like a bacterial infection or something. That was my concern.
That,
yeah.
You know.
So for whatever reason, that morning it became a concern, and my headache was just getting worse and worse. And I told Victoria, I said, "Go get your mom. I need to talk to her." So she went to get you, and you came in, and I said, "I'm gonna finish breakfast. I'm gonna get in the shower, and then we're gonna go to the hospital," which is what we did.
Let's remember, Tabby had been doing her sisterly thing.
Yeah, she called me and
she was
informed me I needed
great.
to go to the hospital. Yeah.
She was worried. She was worried about you.
Yeah, but we got in the car, we took off, and we ended up going to Mercy.
Yeah, I asked you. I said, "Do you care where to go?"
Yeah.
And you said no. Kind of a weird question, right? Because we always went to St. Luke's.
Right.
But
We
I
went
don't
to
know. I
Mercy.
had just really prayed that we would be led to the right hospital. And the minute we walked in, I knew we were in the right hospital.
Yeah, we went into emergency. I told them I'd been having headaches, and they took us immediately into a room
Immediately.
and didn't waste any time to do a CT scan. And then they came back and wanted an MRI. The MRI showed a problem that they recognized immediately, which was a tumor, and they immediately contacted the U of I and told us that we needed to go straight there. And they wanted to know, do you want an ambulance or do you want to go on your own? And I said, we'll just go on our own.
Yes. And they said, don't stop.
No, don't go home, don't stop to eat, don't do anything, go directly to the U of I, which we did. And they were waiting at the front door for me.
They were.
He said, "I feel like I've been hit by a bus." And then he kept saying, "I'm so sorry." And he was hooked up to all kinds of machines.
So, once we got to the U of I, they wanted more MRIs and their own.
They wanted their own.
They wanted their own MRIs. So I did more MRIs there.
They were already consulting with the neurosurgeon team, though, because of the results from the MRI from Mercy Hospital.
Right. Yeah. And it was the University of Iowa that described it as an angry tumor.
Yes.
Yeah, it needs to come out, so.
Very angry.
And then I don't remember the series of events that took us to the actual surgery then from there, but.
Lots of nurses coming in and out of your ER room, just prepping you. They showed me the scans, and they showed me that the brain was going through severe swelling, and the lining of the brain, you know, the way it's got that perfect center, and it wasn't perfect. It was all over the place because of all the swelling.
The right side with the tumor was distorted.
Yeah, and it was pushing onto the left side, and so they said if this doesn't change quickly, he's going to have seizures, and if he has seizures, he's going to have permanent damage.
So I was in surgery by 11:45 Sunday night. So just before midnight, and it was a 6-hour surgery.
Yes.
Yeah. There was a lot that can go wrong with that surgery.
A lot that could go wrong. Millimeters away from wrong.
Yeah, like you don't walk, you don't remember who you are.
You don't talk.
Vision problems.
You lose your eyesight.
Motor skills. Yeah, it's a long list of things that could go wrong. And with visitation restrictions because of COVID and everything, you were the only one there. And then you had to sit in the waiting area by yourself through the night.
And trying to keep your family.
Yeah, everybody's calling, you're
Everybody's
texting.
calling.
Everybody
I'm
wants
trying
to know what's going
deal
on.
with the nurses and whatnot. But I was thinking about this, and I thought it was a good thing that I was alone. I needed to be alone. I could hear God better that way. Yeah. I had seen Dr. Kawasaki at 5:30 in the morning. His part of the surgery was complete, and Dr. Christensen was finishing things up and getting your surgery wrapped up. But Dr. Kawasaki was very honest with me as to
what he suspected.
Yeah. So right after Kip got out of surgery, I got to see him for about a half hour, and he was in a lot of pain.
Which I don't remember.
That's good.
Yeah. I don't remember being in a lot of pain, so.
But he said, he just kept going, oh.
He said, I feel like I've been hit by a bus. And then he kept saying, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And he was hooked up to all kinds of machines.
I remember when they woke me up in recovery, and the surgeon asked me, what's your name? And I said, Kip Morrow. I knew my name. He said, where are you? And I said, I'm at the University of Iowa Hospital. He said, why are you here? And I said, I had brain surgery. And he was pretty amazed that I was
wasn't there
able
for
to.
that.
Yeah, and I remembered that part. And then
that was right after you woke up.
Yeah.
When I came back to and then you were in the ICU room by then. I walked into the room and the nurse is working with him, and he said, come over here, touch my feet. I looked at the nurse and I just thought that was an unusual request.
Well, it was, but it had been a long night for me.
But I thought something happened to your feet.
No, it was just a long night, and you weren't there, and nobody else could be there.
Right,
and when you showed up, I wanted you to touch me, and my feet were sticking out under the blanket. So I looked at him and I said, touch my feet.
I thought, well, maybe you can't feel his feet or something. I don't know. And so I touched your feet.
And it felt good.
It did.
And you were hungry.
And I was hungry.
Very hungry.
I was very hungry. Even coming out of surgery, I remember being hungry more than I remember being in pain.
Well, and amazingly, the nurse was updating me up to what had happened between the time I left at 6:30 in the morning to 9 o'clock. And you had already walked once. You had, because I said, are we going to order breakfast? And she said, oh, he's already had breakfast. What? What did he have for breakfast? Well, then he said, oh, he had coffee and toast and scrambled eggs. And I said, he could do that? If he's hungry and he could keep it down. And so this was a little while later, you were ready for a full lunch.
Had a full lunch, full dinner. Yeah,
yes.
I ate good.
And so you did so good. You walked 4 times total. And one of the things they wanted you to do on that last walk was to find your own room. They weren't going to tell you how to get there. And then they kept giving you directions. Go to your right, go to your left. And then you, as you were walking around and doing the loop, you were looking into
other people's rooms.
Yes. And you kept saying, boy, they've got it rough. Because that's who you are. So anyway, and then you were getting ready to walk into a room and you said, wait a minute, that's not my room. There's somebody in that bed.
I knew that one wasn't it.
So then you did find your room though. And so you were doing everything they wanted you to do, and then they moved you to the next stage, to another floor.
Right.
I was really tired. I'd just been a couple of days without sleep. And I had turned my phone off, not thinking that Kip was going to be texting. Around 4 o'clock in the morning, the Lord just woke me up. I was awake, and I was kind of bummed out because I wanted to sleep some more.
I just grabbed my Bible. It was right next to it was on my nightstand, and I said, Lord, I need something. I already had talked to Dr. Kawasaki and knew that things didn't look very good for him. And so that's when God, just took me to his word, and I said, I don't even know where to go. Where do I begin to read? You're gonna have to show me. And so he just said, we'll go to the book of Psalms. I thought, well, I might as well just go to the beginning, and went to chapter 1, and then the Lord said, no, we're not gonna read from Psalms today. We're gonna read from Job 42. And I'm thinking, this is good, Job is being restored. But then I kept reading, and it said, so the Lord blessed the latter end of Job more than his beginning. After this lived Job 140 years, and saw his sons and his sons' sons, even 4 generations. So Job died, being old and full of days. And so I thought, okay, Lord, I didn't ask for this, you gave that to me. And right about the time I got done reading that, I noticed that my phone was lighting up, and it was you. And so I was able to pick up, and otherwise I would have been sleeping. And I told you, I said, no, the Lord just gave me something.
Right.
Yeah, and I read that to you.
Mm-hmm. And we've read that quite a few times since. So,
Yeah, we have.
Mm-hmm. So I'm in my hospital bed, lots of IVs and things going on. Nurses have to come in periodically, put stuff in through my IVs, or they have to give me a shot. So before I would eat breakfast, they would have to give me an actual shot with a needle. And the first time they came in, the nurse came in, showed me the needle, and she said, I have to give you this before you eat breakfast. And I'm like, okay. And she goes, it goes in the stomach. And I said, you're kidding me. She said, no. She said, but don't worry, we look for the fatty, fleshy part over on the side, and we'll do it right there. And I said, no, you don't understand. There's no fatty, fleshy part on the side over there. So I said, you're just gonna have to go ahead and do it. So she gives me the shot in the stomach, and it really wasn't that bad, I guess. But anyway, then they let me eat breakfast.
And then you had your breakfast.
And I had my breakfast. The University of Iowa, they were awesome with the surgery, and Dr. Kawasaki did a phenomenal job removing the tumor. He never get everything on these, but he did a really, really good job. And so appreciate that very much. All of the, nurses, everybody, they just...
They cater to everything.
Everything. They did, yeah. So when we left, we had kind of a feel that we might not get the best report, but they wouldn't have any absolute results until February 10th.
That was our appointment.
Yeah. So I got my staples out, my 35 staples out on February 8th. My birthday was February 9th.
Yeah, wait a second though, because on February 8th, when you got your staples out, I couldn't go in with you. Mm-hmm. And so they just had me pull forward and park and wait for you. And I'm thinking, this is gonna take a while, because to me,
just seems like it should.
It seems like it should. And 5 minutes later, he comes around the corner, gets in the car, and he's got a hat on. And I said, so how'd it go? He goes, I'm all done. I said, well, how does it look? You hadn't looked yet.
No, I didn't look at it.
I said, well, let me see. And so you took your cap off, and I was like, that looks really good. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you said, it does? So you put the visor.
Didn't look great, but it was better than what we expected.
It looked good.
Yeah, it was better than we expected.
Yes,
That was the 8th, and the 9th was my birthday, and the 10th we went back down to the U of I for the pathology report. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
that was hard.
It was just, it was a bad day. There was nothing good in the report, nothing optimistic. We didn't get any good news. Like, there was no good news.
Everything was a strike.
In fact, we had actually talked before the meeting that what happens if this is like really bad news, like we don't get good news. And we agreed that we would want to go probably to Mayo Clinic to do follow-up, just because
We'd want to get a second opinion.
we would want a second
somewhere.
opinion. We went down to the U of I, met with the oncologist and radiologist, and we didn't get any good news. Like, there was no good news.
Everything was a strike.
Yeah, anything that we were hoping for that was good,
Right.
we didn't
I
get
mean, they said, you know, you have this and you're not supposed to have this, and you need this and you don't have it. And everything was
it. Was a negative.
a negative.
Yeah. We were told at that point that with treatment, statistically, I was probably looking at 12 to 14 months.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure they're wrong on that at this point. We're pretty sure they're wrong.
Yeah.
So we kind of did a thanks but no thanks, and oh, by the way, we would like to go get a second opinion at Mayo. And the university was very good at helping us transfer all the information and everything needed to go to Mayo Clinic, to help us get appointments set up. And
At the same time, they were concerned that we didn't have enough time to get that second opinion because it was a very angry cancer. One of the questions that we asked was, how long approximately do you think that this cancer had been in your brain? And they said 6 months topped. And that's why they said this is a very angry cancer, because the size of it just didn't match the timeline. It was very aggressive. And so they said, we'll help you get things sent to Mayo. We had one sample left of the brain tumor tissue. And they said, you're gonna have to be very selective as to where this is it. This is your one sample to send. And we had an option to send it to a clinical trial in New York, or send it to whoever we wanted for a second opinion, but we had one.
and it went to Mayo.
They told us, the oncologist in Iowa City said, you'll be lucky if they call you by Monday or Tuesday of next week. At that point, you'll only have a week to 10 days to make a decision. And that's if they can get you in. We began to pray that Mayo would call us quickly, like they needed to call us yesterday.
Well, we got the pathology report on a Thursday, the 10th, and by
It was Wednesday.
Wednesday of the following week, we were at Mayo. So that's how fast they moved us.
And he said, I'll take him, call him right now, bring him in now.
So at Mayo, we connected with our oncologist, Dr. Schinner, and our radiologist, Dr. Breen. And they were both just like great people. Our personalities connected. They were upbeat. They were positive. They understood the seriousness of obviously what we were dealing with, but they weren't like...
They didn't downplay it.
No, they didn't downplay it, but it wasn't like gloom and despair with them. And they didn't focus on the negative prognosis as much as what do we do going forward.
The hope of how do we treat this to make it
And so
better.
we had gone from Thursday at the U of I, really bad report, drove home, talked to the kids, talked to the rest of the family. It was a lot of doom and gloom for us. And then that following week at Wednesday, we met Dr. Schinner and Dr. Breen, I think. And they just brought a whole different atmosphere to the air that was so much more positive.
Well, one of the things you said was you would want, after we had talked to Dr. Schinner, that you would want him as your point guard.
Yeah, I guess if I got a basketball team, he's my point guard.
Yes.
So yeah, definitely.
But
So just made great connections with him.
What was amazing to me was that in our conversation with Dr. Schinner, he shared with us how he had been in a meeting with the oncology team at Mayo, and
Kip's case came through during their meeting. And he said, I'll take him. Call him right now and bring him in now. And so we met with him, and he said, Kip, it would be an honor if you would let me walk this journey with you. And then he said, we got to get this ball rolling. So, because he understood the timeline, because the tumor was so aggressive, they wanted to start treatment right away. I mean, we couldn't even keep up with where we were supposed to be at Mayo that day. We were just going from one floor to another. I mean, we were at one floor and Kip was getting a phone call, you're supposed to be down on this floor. And we were just going all over the place at Mayo. All we could do to walk fast enough to get from one appointment to the next, because everybody was so accommodating. Mm-hmm. And then there was a quote that we had read prior to our appointment. God can open the doors you don't even have the ability to knock on. Remember that? And that's exactly what he was doing. We had no ability to open any of these doors. So much so that we were supposed to come back again and meet with Dr. Breen and set up all of the radiology appointments. And we did everything that day. I mean, everybody was calling Kip and saying, we've got an opening for you here now. And you were saying, well, I'm at another appointment right now. And they actually told him over the phone, well, then you tell us when you want to come in today. And we would just show up and say, well, you know, we're here. We have no appointment, but every door was open.
And we turned right around and I did 6 weeks of radiation and chemo. So anyway, things have gone extremely well. Like the prognosis that we got at the U of I don't doubt this statistically that's accurate, but the Lord has just been incredible. I went through the 6 weeks of radiation and chemo, never spent a day in bed, wasn't sick, didn't get the normal reaction.
Exercising twice a day.
Yeah, I was exercising, feeling good. And then we just recently got one of our follow-up MRIs, and it just looked really, really good. So
I remember the first time we had met with Dr. Schenner. They had taken their MRI after the surgery.
Right. It was the first post-surgery MRI.
Yes. And he showed us, and he said, Kip, he said, look at how straight, you know, it is.
The brain had normalized.
It had normalized, the brain had normalized. And I've never wanted to hug another man, but everything that he was so positive. I told him, I said, Dr. Scher, I've never wanted to hug another man until today. And he just laughed. Yeah,
it was a good day.
It was a good day.
Yeah, it was a good day.
There was one appointment where we were talking and we were asking questions, and I don't remember if you asked a question or if I asked a question, but what was asked was, when will we ever hear the word remission?
And the answer was no. This one doesn't work that way. And that's where
that was hard.
It refocused us, though, on the fact that Mayo Clinic's not our answer. The medical profession's not our answer. God is our answer. And, you know, God's bigger than cancer. That's why, you know, the end of our story is, I don't know where, but I always go back to what you read from Job. You know, God turned the captivity of Job, and his latter end was blessed more than his beginning, and he went on to fullness of days. And so I kind of feel like that's where our journey is going. Despite what the medical profession may statistically say, I think God's bigger. Okay, so when you finish radiation at Mayo Clinic, there's a bell of hope that hangs on the wall. And when you come out from your last radiation treatment, you'll ring the bell, and there's usually quite a few people in the waiting room there, and you get some applause and everybody claps, and kind of signifies a part of the journey coming to an end, getting through that part. So
The club nobody wants to be a part of.
yeah, nobody wants to be in it, but it's nice when you're done with that part. So we got through with that and came out and rang the bell, and Victoria and Remington, 2 of our children, were there.
And I teasingly told you, I said, you're going to ring that bell. You're not going to just
Yeah, some people
move it.
would come out and just go ding, and that's it. We're like, no, you gotta give it more than one ding. So
You have to ring the bell.
I rang the bell.
Yes, he did.
I rang the bell.
When they said you could drive, oh, he lit up. He was very, very happy. He had not been driving. And let me tell you, he had been driving, but he was just not behind the wheel.
I'm a backseat driver. So.
And yes, side driver, front seat driver. You were driving and you scratched your head. And then I just remember watching you, and you looked, and
Clumps of hair were coming out. Yeah.
I'll never forget the look on your face when you saw all the hair that was on your hand. We didn't say much.
No, there wasn't much to say, I guess. So, but yeah, that's what made me feel like a patient, losing my hair. Just about every day, if not at least every week, there was always something that would happen that seemed like God was just trying to encourage us. I wasn't able to keep a follow-up appointment with the surgeon at the U of I because we were up at Mayo Clinic in Rochester all the time, only back on the weekends, and I was pastoring the church on the weekends. So once I got done with all the radiation and chemo at Rochester, I had an appointment scheduled to meet with Dr. Kawasaki, who was my surgeon, and went down for the appointment, and he came into the room, and he's looking at the scar over my head, and he just can't believe how well it healed up, and he kind of walks around, takes a few different angles at it and everything, and apart from that, we really didn't talk about anything from the surgery, or he's just kind of amazed at how well the scar healed, which I am too, because it looked like a Frankenstein scar, and I thought that's what I was going to end up with, but which is just another one of those blessings that we've experienced along the way.
Really good.
Well, it seemed like just about every day, if not at least every week, there was always something that would happen that seemed like God was just trying to encourage us.
Oh, yes.
That this journey is not going to go the wrong way, this journey is going to go the miraculous way. And there were so many different ways that God did that. And one of them was a day I actually woke up and I said, Lord, is there any little sign you could give me that you're going to heal me in all of this? And we got an email from one of Deke's employees, and he said that he and his wife, Deke had told him about what I was going through, and he said that he and his wife were going to pray every day at noon for as long as it takes that God would cure and heal me. And that just came up from out of the blue. And it was on the same day I said, Lord, is there anything that you could just do or show me that it really is your will that you're going to heal me from this? And that email came through that day. And that was just one of, if we took time to recount all the different experiences similar to that,
and
there was a lot.
And our church family
Been amazing.
has been amazing.
Absolutely amazing.
I mean, when we called in all the deacons and officers, and I remember one of them with tears in his eyes, he just said, whatever it takes, whatever it takes. And that's exactly what they've done.
Yeah, I don't think we ever left town without someone handing us money, gift cards, gas money. Yeah, they were amazing. They met.
And David
we had
and
very few out-of-pocket
and David
expenses.
and Tappy.
Yeah.
I mean,
hotels.
Hotel rooms. They took care of our hotel rooms week after week after week.
Yeah, we had a couple different churches took offerings. One was like a $3,500 offering and a $1,000 offering. I mean, just the way that God provided all the unexpected expenses is amazing. So we have felt sustained by the prayers of everybody that's prayed for us, people who have supported us, all the financial support that we've received. You know, we just haven't had any concerns on any of that, so it's been pretty awesome.
There's two things that were an encouragement to me in regards to people praying for us. We haven't accomplished anything. People have carried us with their prayers. And there's one text that I got from Aunt Barbara right after she had heard about you being in the hospital and everything. She had called her church and her pastor and then all of the friends she could think of, all the family she could think of, asking them to pray. And she texted me, she said, "We have our armor on and we are ready to battle." Doesn't sound like her. And I don't know. Not only did that made me smile, which I really needed it, but because I could picture Aunt Barbara literally with armor on, ready to battle. But it was such an encouragement. And then Uncle Bud and his wife Georgia, they reached out and they specifically reached out to me with this, and they said, "Well, keep praying and you keep trusting." But that just meant a lot to me.
And we've seen nothing but blessings and blessings and blessings as we've gone through the journey.
In my devotions one day, I was reading from Philippians 4:5. And I read Philippians 4:5 for I don't know how many times. And what caught my attention was, be careful for nothing. And this was towards the beginning of knowing all of the negatives we were facing. And I said, "But Lord, this is cancer. Be careful for nothing. And this is malignant. Be careful for nothing." And that has resonated with me every time we've faced a hard day, because we've had those days. That's not anything that's possible unless you have the one that makes the impossible possible. And that peace that passes all understanding, it's that. You're careful for nothing when you should be careful for everything. It doesn't make sense. But I felt like we've had so much peace. I've experienced the true peace of God when it comes to be careful for nothing.
Nelly's been incredible through all this. She walks into the room and it just changes the feel of the room, When I was in the hospital, when she wasn't there, I could just feel her absence. When she was there, it was just different. She's an encouragement. She has a lot of faith, and she brings the Bible to the equation, prayer to the equation, her faith to the equation, all of that. And it just is somebody to walk the journey and find strength and support with and through. And so, all the time we were in Rochester, every night we're sitting in bed before we go to bed and, we're reading the Bible, we're taking time to pray, and we're sharing verses back and forth. And just having somebody there to do that with is just incredibly strengthening. And so we've walked what is a very difficult journey in many ways, but yet we've experienced the peace of God, we've experienced the love of God, the faith of God, and we believe that this journey is just going to unveil what an awesome God we believe in and what a powerful God we serve. And He truly is a God that's bigger than cancer. Well, 27 years ago, we stood at the wedding altar and exchanged vows for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health. And I don't know that most people who exchange those vows really think they're ever going to live something very difficult when it comes to health or poverty or the negative things. But, in 27 years, it's been way more good than bad for us. But I never expected this kind of a bad. It was outside of the wheelhouse of what I thought at 56 years of age, Which is why when I came out of surgery, I don't remember being in pain, but I remember saying, Nelly, I'm so sorry. But for better, for worse, I mean, she definitely meant the vows when she said it. You know, God's obviously big enough to make that tumor benign, but he didn't. So we're going to trust that he's big enough for the journey ahead. And so that's what we're doing right now. We're taking the journey. And God's proved himself to be more than big enough for the journey. Like, the journey has been amazing. Even what it's done for the people at our church, just bringing people together, the way people have prayed, and the way that we've put our trust in the Lord as we go through this. And we've seen nothing but blessings and blessings and blessings as we've gone through the journey. So it's been amazing. God's been amazing.
I believe that Jesus is everything that we need to walk this journey. I love you.